title mentioned in your textbook. So before we start talking about language and sex and the kinds of differences in the varieties spoken by males and females, like how do males speak and how do females speak, and what differences we can point out in their varieties and the varieties they produce when they contact each other or when they communicate with people in general. Before we start, let's just start from the title itself, language and sex. In some sociolinguistics books, they mention the title language and sex. And in other sociolinguistic books, they say language and gender. So before we actually start talking or discuss the details of this part, which is very easy and very interesting actually, let's just discuss the difference between the two terms, sex and gender. So what's the difference between sex and gender? Now, I'll make it clear, and I'll try to discuss this briefly for you. Look, when I say the word sex, I actually refer to the man as a man and to the woman as a woman, as created by Allah. I'm actually referring to the biological nature of the man, the biological nature of the woman. You know what I mean? I mean the physical appearance of the man and the physical appearance of the woman. How the man is created, the man and the characteristics, the characterization of the person as a man or as a woman. Like talking about, the genetic or the number of chromosomes and these physical properties related to the man being a man, physically, biologically, and the woman being a woman physically and biologically. This is what do we mean when we mention the term sex. But when we use the term gender, we don't just mean these things, but we actually refer to something else. It's not the man as physically a man with the body of a man, and that's it. But it's also the role of the man in the society and the relationship between the man and the society and the culture, and how the society and the culture affects the way the man speaks or behaves, for example. And when I speak about the women, I'm talking about also the effect or the influence of the society or the culture on the woman. So when I say gender, I'm talking about the social constructs or the social properties, the cultural properties that affect the varieties spoken by the man and the woman, or the behaviors of man and woman. But when I mention the term sex, I actually mean something else. I mean the biological and the anatomical and the physical appearance of the man. So that's the main difference between sex and gender. So again, sex means the biological nature of the person. Is he a man or a woman? And gender means the role of the person within the society. Is the person a man or a woman? What's the role? What's the effect of the society or the culture on that person? Sometimes both terms, sex and gender, are used interchangeably, like they're synonymous. You can use one instead of another, as here in this chapter. نحن استخدموا المصطلح language and sex, the relationship between language and sex. Do you think they mean language and the female being a female with a female body or the male body? No, it has no relationship with that. When they say language and sex, they actually mean language and gender, which is the most preferred term or preferable term nowadays. They actually mean how males and females speak, not the biological features of the male and female, not the sex, but the gender. So even if they are used interchangeably, we don't have exact synonyms in English. So type is not kind. It's not exactly the same as kind. And sort also is also different. Crazy and insane are different. Idiot and fool are different. Smart and clever are also different, and so on. So we don't have exact synonyms in English. Yes, sometimes we can use them interchangeably. We can replace them. But sex refers to the biological features in human beings and also in animals, not just in human beings. But it refers to the biological qualities, the physical qualities. But gender, no, it refers to the social qualities, to the cultural roles and social roles and cultural behaviors of girls and boys and women and men. So when I say that's the way how women speak and how men speak and how they behave within the society, I'm not talking about sex here, but I'm talking about gender. And when I talk about how a woman looks like and how a man looks like and the biological differences between them, the physical differences between their bodies and hormones and everything, that's sex. So sex characterizes who you are, but it doesn't tell anything about the social and cultural aspects of the man or the woman within the society. So the main idea, the conclusion here is that it's better to use the term gender in relation to language than using the term sex. But here, again, the title, language and sex, by the title, they don't refer to the biological aspects of the woman, but they actually refer to the social properties of men and women. وراح نشوف الاختلافات الاجتماعية اللي تأثر على كلام. Any questions about this characterization or this comparison between sex or gender? Any question or comment you want to add? أحد عنده إضافة أو سؤال طلاب؟ لو واضح كل شيء.
واضح.
Okay. خلينا نشوف هسه. We talked about these kinds of differences between males and females. Now let's see what kind of differences we can find. For example, we have claims. You know, claims يعني ادعاءات. يعني they may be not true. They may be false. So when I say someone claims يعني شخص ما يدعي, معناها I disagree with this person. I don't agree. It could be true and it could be false. Unless it's proven, okay, then we can say, okay, it's a statement. So the claim is different from the statement of fact. One of the claims says that women talk more than men. Do you agree or disagree, and why? Now, this question is for you. Do you agree that women talk more than men, and why? Well, here it says that research on the topic has demonstrated the opposite. The recent studies and research proved that women and men, women do not talk more than men. They talk equally, the same or so. But what do you think? I'm asking about your opinion. Disregard this. ما لكم علاقة بهاي الجملة. يعني العلم يتقبل نقاش, يتقبل آراء. If you give convincing reasons, إذا تعطيني أسباب مقنعة خلاص. That's it. So what do you think? Do you think men talk more than women, or it's men that talk more than women? So what do you think? Okay, let's hear you out. And let's start with Fatma Ahmed.
Yes. Yes, I agree with this topic. I agree with the talk a lot, because when we talk, we to express our feeling, not just communicate. That's why we speak a lot.
Because you're emotional and you try to express your feelings?
Yes, that is in my opinion.
Okay, thank you, Fatma. So you do agree that women talk more than men. Thank you. Nabah Haider?
I disagree with this because both of them are talking a lot. Women talking a lot, that's right. Not always and not every day. Men like women talk a lot. Right now.
So you disagree because you can also find some men who talk a lot or talk more than women.
Yes.
Yeah, okay, thank you. Yusuf Jalil, what do you think?
Yes, sir. Well, I disagree with this opinion because it depends on the person who want or who want to express on himself.
So it's about the nature.
On himself. Yes,
it's about the nature of the individual, himself or herself.
Yes. It doesn't depend on the gender or sex. That's all.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you. Suad Adnan.
Yes, sir. Yes, I think she talks a lot because she thinks a lot and do a lot of things.
Yeah.
And also she is the kind that cannot control of her feelings and needs to talk about her feelings more than a man.
Okay, so because of thinking a lot and trying to express feelings and emotions more than the man, because she's more friendly and more sensitive and more emotional, that's why she talks a lot.
Yes.
Yeah, okay, great. That's right. Look, I'm actually here asking you about your opinion. So all opinions are correct. There is no right or wrong opinion because it's an opinion. And there is no fact that says who speaks more. There is no fact ever that says who speaks more. There is a fact that says the sun rises from the east. That's a fact. We all know this for sure. It doesn't change. But there's no fact that says women talk more than men. It's just, sometimes people say it for fun and to be humorous and so just trying to make fun or something or to mock. But it's not real. It depends, as you said, it depends on the individual's nature, the nature of the person himself or herself. Sometimes you can find a man who doesn't stop talking. Even if talking is not part of his job, but he just likes to talk so much, and you can never interrupt that person. And sometimes you can find a woman who doesn't stop talking, and if she starts talking, she has the ability to spend hours talking. So it depends on the person, and it also depends on the society and the culture. So it's culturally related, and it's also individually related. Yes, women talk more than men. And yes, men talk more than women. So both things are correct. That's why it's a claim. That's why we said it's a claim. And the recent research has demonstrated the opposite. It means that it's not a fact that women talk more than men, but it's actually they talk equally the same. Sometimes women talk more and sometimes men talk more, depending on the person himself or herself, and also depending on the culture and the social context in which they're living. So that's one of the claims. Sometimes when we hear a man talking too much, we just ignore this fact, and we don't say that men talk too much. But when we hear a woman talking too much, we say, "Oh my God, women talk too much," and we immediately complain about this. اكو احد يحب يضيف بعد في نقطه معينه بخصوص رقم واحد قبل ان نشارك؟ Okay, let's talk about number 2 حتى لا ياخذنا الوقت. Women use empty adjectives. That's also a claim. Like that women use more empty adjectives like oh, cute, beautiful, charming, adorable. That's right. Women like these words. We call them empty adjectives because they're empty, they're extra. You can use them anytime you want, optional. Is it true that women use more adjectives like this? Yes, that's right. I noticed this in women. They say, oh, yes, cute, adorable. Even in Arabic, they like to use such kinds of adjectives. But does this mean that men do not use these adjectives? No. Now, ask someone, a man, for example, to describe a very beautiful woman. And think of the adjectives that the man will list or present for you. He will say, "Oh my God, she looks devastating. She's mind blowing. She's fantastic. She's amazing. She's dazzling, charming, cute, beautiful." And the man will use a million adjectives trying to describe the woman, the beautiful woman, and anything beautiful, not just a beautiful woman. It's actually something natural to use such kinds of adjectives because we sometimes try to over-exaggerate when talking. And even if magnificent and wonderful and amazing and spectacular all mean the same, and we say, oh, spectacular, fantastic, amazing, magnificent, wonderful, we say all of them together sometimes. And they're just empty adjectives. So not just women use these kinds of adjectives, that's just a claim. Also, men use such kinds of empty adjectives. See, are we talking about the women and the physical appearance of the woman? هل جاي نحكي عن الخصائص الجسدية للمرأة أو للرجل? Yes or no? No. So we're not talking about sex here. We're talking about gender. The differences in the varieties spoken by women and men. And so far, we've discussed these two claims. Any questions so far? Is everything clear? Yes. It's called empty adjective because you can drop it anytime. Like you can say an adorable girl, an adorable and cute girl, and you can drop one of them or two of them or all of them. So that's why it's an empty adjective. It doesn't add so much to the meaning of the sentence. A girl or adorable girl, it's a girl. That's why we call them empty adjectives. Empty, like they just describe things. They describe the personality or the looking.
Sir, we can see the two claims depend on the nature of the individual.
Yes, and the society also and the culture. يعني ممكن في مجتمع معين تلقى المرأة تحكي عن، ممكن في مجتمعنا احنا مثلا ممكن مرأة تحكي أكثر من رجل. يعني هسه أنا مثلا أعرف يعني وحدة جيراننا إذا تزورنا وتدخل تحكي إذا حكت بعد ما تسكت. وأيضا أنا أعرف شخص أعرف شخص أعتقد أنتم تعرفوه أو ما تعرفوه ما أعتقد تعرفونه لأنه ما بتعطي معلومات أكثر. أهم هذا الشخص إذا حكى بعد ما يسكت رجل يعني ويظل يحكي وحتى أنت من تحكي ما يسمعك أصلا يعني ما يسمع أنت شنو جاي تقول من رأي أو من كذا بس يحب يعطي قصصه الخاصة أو الشخصية أو الآراء ويستمر بالحكي وفنك تخلص. Yes, it depends on the society and the individual also. Yes,
يعني أنا قارئ يعني بس ما أقدر أعبر عنها بالإنجليزي. أنا قارئ يعني نظريات بأنه يعني وهالنظريات يعني شلون دراسات أجنبية بأنه هنا يعني النساء يتكلمن أكثر لأنه كلامهن يريدن يعبرن عن مشاعرهن وحتى يعني مع بعضهن يعني مو لازم يعني هي موضوع يعني مهم بس هي يعني تريد تقوي علاقتها بصديقتها لما تشاركها مشاكلها أو يعني الشغلات المهمة بحياتها كذلك تعبر عن مشاعرها يعني
لهذا احنا قلنا it depends on the social context and the social environment and the culture and the person herself. يعني أنا أعرف وايد بنات ما يحشون أبد ما يحشون حتى ببيوتهم ما يحشون يعني هادين جدا فهي تعتمد على طبيعة الشخص. أكو دراسات حديثة أثبتت إنه in meetings women speak less than men but they tend to provide longer comments. يعني بالاجتماعات النساء تحكي أقل من الرجال من اجتماعات رسمية. الرجال يحكون أكثر النساء تحكي أقل ولكن النساء تنطي تعليقات أطول يعني التعليق مالتهم أطول. صح مثلا الرجل يجوز يشارك مرتين وثلاثة وأربعة وخمسة وعشرة باجتماع معين مرة تشارك مرة واحدة بس تعليقها طويل تحب تنطي تفاصيل يعني with details. But remember this depends on the person and it also depends on the context. And even in such studies or research papers they conclude depending on a specific sample. They cannot generalize this to all women and all men. يعني هو أنا من أريد أسوي دراسة وأريد أشوف منو يحكي أكثر المرأة أو الرجل بالاجتماعات مثلا. يعني معناها غير أنا راح أروح أصور اجتماعات، يعني أخذ كاميرا وأصور اجتماعات، أصور اجتماعات بكاميرا، يعتمد حتى على نمط الأسرة بالضبط. القصد من هذا الشيء، أنا من راح أسوي دراسة وأريد أثبت منهم يحكي أكثر بالاجتماعات، أنا راح أخذ كاميرتي وأصور اجتماعات معينة وبعدين أحللها، أو أخذ اجتماعات جاهزة مصورة أصلا وأقعد أحلل، أو مسجلة وأحللها. طيب هذا التحليل والنتائج اللي راح أطلعها تعتمد على السامبلز اللي أنا أخذتها وحللتها. فأنا ما ممكن أنا أعمم هذا الشيء على كل العالم وأقول women talk more than men, for example, or use more empty adjectives. That's why we use the term claim here. لهذا السبب استخدمنا مصطلح claim. مصطلح claim لأنه هذا يعتبر ادعاء. Yes, women like to give details, but also men like to give details. Yes, women talk more than men in some cultures, and it depends on the woman itself, and also men talk more than women. So it's just a claim. There's no fact. أكو facts ثانية رح نجيها هسه. أكو facts ثانية. For example, let's talk about this. Who is more polite? Whose speech is more prestigious? Closer to prestige, prestigious. Whose speech is more prestigious? Whose speech is more polite? Whose speech is better? Whose speech is better from the politeness scale? مو better يعني بأنه الرجل دائما يغلط وكذا، لا. يعني مصطلح better هم يعني الكتاب استخدم مصطلح better، مو كلش مصطلح دقيق، يفضل انه يستخدم مصطلح آخر، ولكن better in politeness. Of course, the woman. The woman is more polite, and for reasons, and these reasons can be somehow generalized to all cultures. Somehow, not all the time. فالمرأة تكون أسلوبها أو كلامها مهذب أكثر لأسباب. الأسباب طبعا هواي. Let's talk about some of these reasons. Your textbook mentions 3 particular reasons. Yes, okay, that's right, Ghufran. Sometimes women, they note things faster and easier than men. And if you're talking about, recognition, if this is what you mean, then that's right. And not just this, but also memory. Studies have proved that women remember better than men. And because of that, they may also talk more. So it's possible. Everything is possible. All social factors might affect, because sometimes because of the differences in hormones and other biological stuff, they affect your social behavior. Now, why women speak more politely than men? One of the reasons is what? That women are pressurized by the society. They speak in a ladylike manner with a very nice and, a polite style or register. Because of the traditions, because of the habits, because of the culture and the society, they feel pressurized within this culture or this society. For example, let's talk about our culture. Like, women will be very selective and very attentive, very careful when they choose their words. Because if they say bad words, others will think bad about them. And they will say bad things about them. So they need to be careful. They cannot be free saying anything they like, especially in our society. In other societies, they may feel free talking about anything and saying anything they like, just like men, such as in some Western and American societies. But here in the Arab societies and some Oriental societies, they feel like they're pressurized by the standards of the societies and by the culture and the traditions and the habits. And because of their fear that others might think bad about them, they need to be so selective and so careful when they speak and when they choose their own words. فيختارون كلمات المناسبة بسبب الضغوط الاجتماعية والثقافية. Another reason is that because women always look after their children and they raise children, and because of parenting and raising children, they choose nice words because they don't want the children to hear bad words. Children consider the women or the parents as examples. So whatever the parents say, the children will say, because they acquire the language. Remember, language is culturally transmitted. They acquire the language from the parents. So they speak nice words and nice language, nice expressions and phrases, because they want the children to progress socially and positively at the same time. ولأنهم يربون أطفال دائما ما يقدرون يتكلمون بكلمات غير مهذبة أمام الأطفال، لأنه راح يكبرون ويستخدمون هذه الكلمات، فيستخدمون كلمات لطيفة حتى الأطفال يكتسبون هذه الكلمات. And a third reason is also that women tend to choose jobs that depend on communication, not jobs that depend on physical strength. يعني النساء تختار أعمال ووظائف عادة اللي تعتمد على الكلام أكثر من الوظائف اللي تعتمد على القوة الجسدية. And it's a fact. That's because of the physical nature of the human being, whether a man or the woman. So we can see that women, they like to be teachers because it's just talking and doesn't require some kind of a physical activity like lifting something heavy or building something or breaking something or so. So the main idea here is that women speak more politely than men because of these three main reasons. Any questions or comments?
So I don't understand number one.
Inshallah,
Thank you, sir.
Okay, number one, Fatima, when I ask you a question, when you go to the street, do you say anything when you walk with your family or with anyone in the street? Do you say anything? Do you speak anything? Do you speak freely like when you talk to your friend? No, because you're afraid that others might say bad things about you. They will hear you, and so you feel like you're pressurized under this culture and this society because of the habits and the traditions. You don't feel free to say anything you like. That's why you choose nice words and you choose good words.
Yes, that's right.
Yeah, so that's point number one.
Thank you, sir.
You're welcome. بعد اكو حد عنده سؤال لو واضح نكمل؟
It's clear, sir.
It's clear, sir.
Go on, sir.
ماشي. Okay. Also, in recent years, and nowadays, I mean, they prove that employed, women who have jobs and men who have jobs, employed women and men have no differences in the varieties they speak. They all speak politely, especially when they're employed, when they work in a company, in a workplace. They speak similarly. يعني بالشركات بالأماكن العمل الدراسات أيضا الحديثة شافت أنه هو صار أكو توجه نحو الكلام المهذب أكثر حتى من قبل الرجال وما يظلوا يكون اختلافات. أنا من أقول كلام مهذب ما أقصد أنه men always speak impolitely. لا أنا أقصد كلام اللطيف اللي بيه عبارات لطيفة أكثر ويعني less orders and nice expressions, kind expressions and empty adjectives like these things. Also, studies have proved that in workplaces, men and women try to speak similarly. So these kinds of differences appear to be diminishing or decreasing. تقل أو تبدي تختفي نوعا ما هاي الاختلافات. Okay. Another important point to mention here is the use of hedges. And by hedges, I mean phrases like, I mean, maybe, kind of, or kind of, sort of, or sort of, these kinds of expressions. I'm sure that you have noticed some people always say, when they talk. Some characteristics, attributed to women, turn out to be far more, widespread. For example, women, have been claimed to use more, hedges. لاحظوا كم, وصدقوني اكو هيك اشخاص، يعني مو مبالغه، اكو اشخاص يقولون مثلا في جملتين، هي جملتين بها في 20 30 او 40 كلمه، 5 6 منها مثل بالعربي واحد يتكلم ويقول يعني او يحكي ويقول زين واضح. هاي اللازم موجودة عند كل الأشخاص، أنا وأنت وأي واحد، ولكن أحيانا تكون واضحة عند بعض الأشخاص. So we call them hedges, these phrases. I mean, maybe. Also, women have been claimed to use more hedges. So if I say women use more hedges, it's not exactly true, but it's just a claim. It's just a claim. But it's closer to a fact than a claim. Why? Because these are some characteristics attributed to women turn out to be far more widespread. For example, like this one. So it's closer to a fact. It's closer to a fact than the previous two claims that we have mentioned at the beginning of this lecture. These two claims. يعني هذا شوي أقرب للحقيقة من هذا. Yes, women tend to use such expressions like kinda, sorta, maybe, I mean, this, or like, the use of like. But it's kind of short. It's kinda. Instead of saying of, they say with a short. But it's kind of short, or kind of short. Okay. هاي استخدام الهجس. There's also another point about women. They say women are accused. Accused يعني متهمة. The woman is accused of using question intonation, rising tone. Like, for example, if I ask a woman or a girl, what time's dinner? If she says 8 o'clock or about 8 o'clock, like this, then she's very sure and her speech is powerful and secure and indicates a sense of finality. خلاص تريد تعرف شو وقت العشاء؟ جاوبتك شو وقت العشاء. About 8 o'clock. That's it. She doesn't care if you agree or disagree. She just told you the time. But sometimes when you ask her, what time is dinner? She says, about 8 o'clock, with a question tone, a question intonation, question music. مفهوم؟ تفهمون شنو اللي أقوله؟ What does it mean? What does it mean when she produces it with a question intonation? When she says about 8 o'clock, معناها بثمانية؟ يعني شو تقول؟ she's hesitant. يعني شو تقول موافق؟ إذا ما موافق أوكي خليك بالسبعة أو بالتسعة شو وقت ما تريد. She's like insecure. She's not safe. She's less powerful. When she says about 8 o'clock, that's it. It's final. Nothing to add. But when she says about 8 o'clock, like she's asking you, what do you think? Do you agree? So it's just also a claim, an accusation that women tend to use more rising intonation in questions than men. But the fact is that powerless people come from either sex or either gender. We can have powerless people from men and also from women. So men can be powerless and also women can be powerless. Men can be powerful and women can be powerful. But كلها claims. Okay? But the fact remains as the following. That supportive and friendly speech is more often associated with women than with men. So women are more friendly, supportive, inspiring, motivating, engaging, sensitive, passionate, and compassionate and caring and pleasant and lovely than men. And, it's a fact, and it applies to all societies and all cultures. And all other things that are mentioned are just claims or, semi-facts, not exact facts. And that's all about this part. خلاص هذا الجزء الرابع. So again, from the beginning, all you need to know is that first, what's the difference between sex and gender? And remember, sex is biological, refers to the physical appearance and the biological properties of men and women, males and females, girls and boys. But gender refers to the social and cultural roles or cultural properties or constructs of a man or a woman. هذا الفرق بين sex and gender. And it's better to use gender in relation to language than using sex in relation to language. But still, sex and gender can be used interchangeably. Okay. دقيقة خلاص خلينا نروح على الصوت اليمين. هسه قرأت التعليقات. بالمناسبة هاي اللي نقولها أو أو يعني أو كذا هي نسميها discourse fillers. أنا استوني قلت بدون ما أشار. نسميها discourse fillers. You need them to think, to remember something sometimes, but sometimes it's part of how you speak. It's part of of your nature. فأحيانا جزء من كلامك وأحيانا لحظة الآية قلت هسه أحيانا تريد تتذكر في شيء معين حتى تقوله. أحيانا نتحكم بالlengthening of vowels، نطول الفاول حتى نوصل فكرة أو حتى أتذكر شيء معين. مثلا أقول she wants to clean هاي مثلا نطول الفاول حتى أظل أفكر بالشيء معين أو أركز على آخر consonant. She wants to clean and وهكذا. So we call them discourse fillers or speech fillers. This is meta language and it's a different story and a different field. Okay. We also mentioned the two claims that women talk more than men and that women use more empty adjectives than men, and it's not true. Sometimes men talk more than women and sometimes men use empty adjectives more than women. But yes, women speak more politely for these three main reasons. There are other reasons, but if I ask you to mention the most important reasons, you just mention these three reasons to me. One reason is that they feel pressurized because of the habits and the society, socially and culturally pressurized. And another reason is because they raise children. They look after children, so because of babysitting them all the time, they need to speak good words so that they acquire good words and progress socially and positively well. Maybe they choose jobs that depend on communication. That's why they choose good words. They don't choose jobs that depend on muscular strength or muscular or physical strength. We use more hedges, and that's also a claim. Recent studies have proved that differences between men and women in workplaces, in companies or offices appear to be diminishing or disappearing or decreasing. Women speak with an insecure style. Well, it's just an accusation. It's not true. It's not true. Sometimes men use rising intonation, but they just say so about women because women are weaker weaker physically لأنه أضعف جسديا، فيعتبرون المرأة أيضا أضعف اجتماعيا وثقافيا. طبعا مو فقط المجتمع الشرقي وإنما حتى غير مجتمعات. صح, the woman has many roles in other societies, but still the man seems to be more powerful. So if I ask you, like, how many presidents do we have? How many male presidents? How many female presidents? How many male scientists? And how many male judges? And how many إلى آخره. راح نشوف دائما الميلز أكثر لأنه in all societies, in almost all societies, they think of the woman as a weak and sensitive or emotional creature. وربما في مجتمعنا بالآونة الأخيرة بدأت تتغير هذه الأشياء. مجتمعنا يمكن هذا أحد الأسباب ما يخلون المرأة تكون قاضي because she's driven by her emotions and her feelings than her logic and reason. Yeah, but still, powerful people come from both genders and from either sex, and also powerless people come from either sex. The fact is that friendly and inspiring speech is more attributed to women than men. And that's it, the end of the story. من عنده سؤال ملاحظة أي شيء ما مفهوم؟ علا عندي سؤال أو ملاحظة؟
Yes, sir. I'm just wondering about the difference between gender and sex. Human gender just describe the characteristics of the men and women. And sex refer to those that are biologically determined. You mean that?
Yes, sex means the man or the woman, how the man looks like physically, how the woman looks like physically. يعني شلون هيئة المرأة شنو جسديا biologian, and also the man. But gender refers to the role of the male or the female, the social role and the cultural role of the male or the female within the society and the culture. يعني دور المرأة الاجتماعي والثقافي هذا نسميه gender. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you, sir.
Yes, with pleasure. نور زهراء عندي سؤال وملاحظة.
Yes, sir. Often we can know the sex of expect of the man of women throughout the whole piece. The women likes sport and watch action movies, but the women likes the cooking or the sport and the walking.
Yes, that's right. This is because they are affected by their biological appearance and hormones. So their kinds of physical intelligences are different. You know, the body, the brain is divided into two hemispheres, and in each hemisphere you have boxes, and you have a number of intelligences. Some people like mathematics. Some people like language. Some women like cooking. Some women like embroidering, you know, others like painting. But the usual tendency for women is to like, painting and cooking and, sewing and these matters that are aesthetic, جمالية, الأمور الجمالية أكثر. Unlike men who like more things related to actions and to physical activities, الفعاليات الجسدية أكثر.
Yes.
Yeah. محمد ماجد عندك نقطة أو ملاحظة؟
The family influence the women's behavior and influence the personality the women's, and this point limited the women's or strong or weak. And
yes. The woman is also affected by the family. But I just need you to remember something very important here. Everyone, all of you need to remember something very important. We're not concerned with the differences between all differences between males and females. We're not concerned with differences because of the family or differences because of their bodies or because of their interests. Our business is what? Only the differences in their language, because this is sociolinguistics. Language is our specialty. اختصاصنا اللغة احنا، فما يهمنا احنا المرأة بشنو تختلف، شنو تحب، شنو تكره، شنو تلبس، وشنو كذا، وشون أهلها وكذا. We only concern about the kinds of differences. So remember, when we talk about who talks more, that's language. Who uses more adjectives, empty adjectives, that's language. Why do they speak more politely? Speak more politely, that's language. And who uses rising tones? That's also language. So our business is only the effects of the society and the culture and the nature of the man or woman, their gender or their sex on their language and their varieties. يعني جنس الشخص شلون راح يأثر على لغته، هذا اللي احنا نريده، اللي نختص به. شلون جنس المرأة أو الشخص سواء كان مرأة أو رجل affect the variety produced by the man or the woman.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Yeah, you're welcome. انتهى الوقت هسه، بعد ان شاء الله لا اكو مثلا نحاول نراجع في وقت اخر. نعم تفضل.
بس نور بسام بلغت ما راح تقدر تحضر المحاضرة، فبس بلغتني انه
ما اكون اليوم ما سجلت حضور، فسهله ان شاء الله.
شكرا استاذ.
عفوا.